In my life, I've had 3 significant relationships. My current girlfriend, with whom I've been blissfully involved for 3 years, my first college sweetheart, and then there was Erica. Erica was a whirlwind of emotional turmoil and occasional physical distress. Let me take you back to the beginning. Erica and I connected on Bumble, and we quickly discovered we attended the same college. This common ground sparked our initial conversations, and after about a month of dating, we made our relationship official. The honeymoon phase was delightful, as it often is, but it gradually faded as Erica's controlling and obsessive tendencies surfaced. Erica had a limited social circle, perhaps 1 or 2 friends at most. So, when I would go out with my friends on the weekends, she would bombard me with texts every 15 minutes, demanding proof of my whereabouts. Her jealousy and control escalated to the point where I had to share my location with her constantly. After enduring this for about 5 months, I reached my breaking point. One night, after an unplanned bar outing with my friends, I returned home to find Erica waiting outside my house. Her face was contorted with rage, and this was the first time she physically assaulted me. She accused me of cheating, creating a public spectacle. I had to restrain her to stop the assault, and that's when I decided to end the relationship. However, the breakup didn't bring the peace I had hoped for. I was bombarded with lengthy texts from Erica, oscillating between anger and regret. Eventually, I blocked her, hoping to put an end to the drama. But Erica had other plans. A friend sent me a screenshot of Erica's Instagram post featuring her with a burly, intimidating man. I shrugged it off, joking about Erica's upgrade. But one night, I was jolted from my sleep by a loud pounding on my front door. A man was outside, yelling threats and demanding I open the door. I recognized him as the man from Erica's Instagram post. As I was on the phone with 911, I heard the sound of glass breaking. Looking out, I saw the man vandalizing my SUV. The police arrived promptly, apprehending the man who was still yelling threats at me. I showed the police the damage to my vehicle and the threatening texts I had received. The police officer advised me to file a restraining order against both Erica and her new boyfriend. It was a chilling reminder to be cautious about who you let into your life, as there's a fair share of madness lurking out there.
My boyfriend Ken and I have been dating for 2 years. Ken was a tempest of emotional and physical torment that I endured for 2 years. I was always too frightened to leave, despite the toxic environment. I resided with my single mother in a rough neighborhood, where walking alone at night was a risky venture. Ken, being a large and imposing figure, provided a sense of security, at least when he wasn't belittling me. Ken's controlling nature began to surface as our relationship progressed. He was obsessively curious about my every move, and his jealousy knew no bounds. I was constantly under scrutiny, and his incessant questioning made it impossible for me to enjoy time with my friends. The fear of his reaction kept me from breaking up with him, but one day, I gathered the courage to end things over text, knowing that a face-to-face confrontation would likely result in violence. Ken's reaction was explosive. He bombarded me with calls and sent lengthy, abusive texts. I decided to ignore him, hoping he would cool down. That night, I was home alone as my mother was working her second job. I went to bed early, but sleep was elusive due to the turmoil in my mind. I was jolted awake in the middle of the night by a noise outside my room. I assumed it was my mother returning from work, but when I called out to her, there was no response. I ventured into the living room, turning on the lights, but found no one there. Suddenly, a chilling thought crossed my mind. Ken knew where we kept the spare key. Could he have let himself in? I retreated to my room and called my mother, informing her about my suspicions. She assured me she would be home soon and suggested that I might just be hearing house noises. I tried to calm myself and return to sleep, but then I noticed my cat, Foster, lying motionless on my bed. I picked her up, only to find her lifeless. I was certain now that Ken was in the house and had killed Foster as a twisted form of revenge. I locked my bedroom door, hid in the closet, and dialed 911, whispering into the phone about my situation. The operator instructed me to stay hidden until the police arrived. When they finally did, they found the front door unlocked, suggesting that Ken had left. I was devastated, and the sight of Foster's lifeless body made me break down in tears. The police couldn't do much without concrete evidence of a break-in, and there were no visible injuries on Foster to suggest foul play. However, the next day, my mother and I changed the locks and filed for a restraining order against Ken. The court granted us a temporary order, which was later made permanent. Ken was arrested for violating the restraining order. He was found lurking near my house one night, and the police were able to apprehend him. He was charged with stalking and harassment, providing some semblance of justice for the trauma he had caused. Despite the ordeal, I learned a valuable lesson about the importance of self-worth and the courage to escape toxic relationships. During my junior year of high school, I entered my first romantic relationship with a senior named Gary from a neighboring town's high school. We connected through Facebook, and our relationship blossomed from there. We supported each other at our respective sports games, he at my softball matches and I at his football games. Our dates were typical of high school students, grabbing burritos, going for drives, or hanging out at his place. Gary was a unique character, a physically imposing football player who preferred the company of the stoners and the average crowd over the jocks. However, he had a fiery temper that often flared up. As time passed, I found myself drawn to a boy named Brian from my school. I felt my interest in Gary waning and decided to explore my feelings for Brian. One evening, I asked Gary to pick me up for a serious conversation. He sensed something was amiss, and when I suggested we take a break, his reaction was explosive. He punched his dashboard in a fit of rage, scaring me. He apologized and promised to drive me home, but his anger only escalated as he demanded reasons for my decision. He started driving recklessly, and I realized he was not taking me home but towards a secluded wooded area. Fear gripped me, and I managed to escape from the car when he stopped. A couple of nights later, I was walking to Brian's house when I noticed a hooded figure following me. Panic set in when the figure started running towards me. I screamed and ran towards Brian's house. The figure turned and fled in the opposite direction. I was certain it was Gary. After a few more incidents of anonymous calls and spotting Gary's car parked near my house late at night, my parents intervened. My father confronted Gary's parents, threatening to involve the police if Gary continued his harassment. This seemed to work, and Gary ceased all contact.
It happened a couple of years back, when I was dating this girl named Sarah. I met her on Tinder, and after just 2 months of dating, she moved in with me. Everything was going great, at least at first. Sarah was fun, outgoing, and beautiful. We had a great time together, and I was happy to have her move in. But then, things started to change. Sarah stopped taking her meds. She had a mental illness, something she had been upfront about when we started dating. But she decided she didn't need her meds anymore, and that's when things went downhill. She became unpredictable, volatile. We fought all the time, over the smallest things. It was exhausting, and I knew I couldn't live like that. So I broke up with her. I thought she would move out, but she didn't. She refused to leave. I tried everything to get her to go. I asked her nicely, I begged, I pleaded. But she wouldn't budge. She said she had nowhere else to go, that she couldn't afford to live on her own. I felt bad for her, but I couldn't live with her anymore. So I came up with a plan. I told her I was moving out, that I had found a new place. I packed up my stuff, rented a storage unit, and moved out. I left her in the apartment, hoping she would take the hint and leave. But she didn't. She stayed in the apartment, even though I wasn't there. I had to keep paying the rent, the utilities, everything. I was living out of my car, while she was living in my apartment. It was a nightmare. Finally, after 7 long months, she moved out. I don't know where she went, and I don't care. All I know is that she's gone, and I can finally move back into my apartment. It happened a couple of years back, when I was dating this girl named Mary. She was beautiful, smart, but insanely jealous. Our relationship was on and off, mostly because of her jealousy. One night, I told her I was going out with my friends, but I ended up at a club. That's where I met Wendy. She was fun, outgoing, and we hit it off right away. We started dancing, then making out, and before I knew it, we were heading to another club. That's when I saw her. Mary? My girlfriend. She was there with her friends, and she saw me with Wendy. I tried to explain, but Mary wasn't having it. She started texting me, telling me it was over. I tried to talk to her, but she was furious. She left the club, and I was left there with Wendy. Wendy and I hung out a few more times, but it wasn't the same. I was still thinking about Mary, and Wendy could tell. We ended up going our separate ways, and I was left alone. A few months later, I was out with some co-workers. We were at a bar, having a good time, when I saw them. Mary and Wendy. They were there, at the bar, hanging out together. I couldn't believe it. My ex-girlfriend and my ex-friends with benefits, now friends. I tried to talk to them, but they didn't want to talk to me. They told me they had become friends, that they had bonded over their shared experience with me. They told me they were better off without me, and I was left standing there, alone. I had to tell this story. It's a reminder, you know. A reminder that actions have consequences, that you can't play with people's feelings without getting hurt yourself. And a reminder that sometimes, the people you hurt the most end up finding comfort in each other.